Welcome to the Market Mindset. We are the hub for news, results, and CEO interviews focusing the junior commodities sector. We provide market analysis and perspective that will help position you for solid returns. If that sounds like something you're interested in, you can help support us by liking this video, subscribing to our channel, and clicking the notification bell. For more info, you can visit our website. All links are in the description below. Now let's get into today's video.
Welcome back to part 2 of our interview with Robert Rohlfing from Desert Mountain Energy, where we talk about the processing facilities and the plant that just got unveiled, and also the land packages they've bought in the last 2 news releases we've seen, and also kind of touched on the current supply of helium in the market. Enjoy.
From my original design, rough design in 2008 to now, we lowered the kilowatt needs by 55%. That's huge.
Yeah.
The other thing about having solar, we're locked in on our fixed costs for years and years and years and years and years. So it's just the yearly minor maintenance after you do that, and on the batteries, and it's just a normal. So it takes your kilowatt cents per kilowatt hour from, if we were on the local, if we could, number one, get across all of the variations of indigenous peoples, private, state, federal lands, and have gotten a power line run in less than 2 years, probably would have been hard to do. Just trying to get the right of ways would not have happened. But if you had, we would be stuck with paying approximately 14.98 cents per kilowatt hour. Our actual operational costs are 0.8 of 1 cent.
Yeah.
Now, so where does that help? Well, that falls to the bottom line. The other thing about this plant is on the startup. This plant requires one person to run by and check it. I can actually, through sat links, James can run it, I can run it, or the other people, I can run it from my house. Now, you still have to have people out there initially during startup, but you do not have to have someone there 24 hours a day. In fact, you don't have to have, for the other plants, you normally would have had to have 3 people, three people a day, 365, 24/7. We don't do that. The whole thing is so mechanized. Now that's new. Now, we didn't just pull everything off the shelf. There's a number of things that we had to have designed, but yet somebody else had already designed it. And most of the things that we used were used in either the nuclear industry or existing oil and gas. So you're just using a different application for it. How we have chose to apply it is different. And, the computer requirement to handle the first step coming in with the hydrogen extraction, there's more computing capacity right there than there was on the Apollo 11 moon mission.
Yes.
So it's, how do you make this work? And I think the one thing that everybody saw Tuesday who came out there, sure, it looks like shipping containers, and it's nice to see all the solar panels and all the piping laying out on the ground and the tanks. And people looked inside, they're going like, it's a series of, it's stainless steel, and it's like, they just look, and it's like everything is engineered. You can change out given pieces on it as they need to. This is not screw things together. Everything is welded. Requirements say that you only need to check welds, X number of welds. Well, we checked everything, and then we hydro tested everything. I don't want to get out there and have problems. Downtime, once we turn this on and we start working it, I don't want to be stuck with downtime. The other thing about this plant, unlike other plants, this plant can run from a low throughput of 300 MCF a day up to a max of 10.5 million cubic feet a day. Now, part of the reason for this is the majority of where you find, and other people, and ourselves included, we will find helium around the US and elsewhere, will be in very small amounts. My guess is overall across the United States, it will be small groupings of well where you may have three, anywhere from 125 up to 400, 500 MCF a day. So if you have something in that mid-range that can cost effectively run at that, again, using solar, that's it. So all the thousands of line codes we had to have written, there's another thing. And yes, we tested them. And some people have asked, well, if you tested it at Generon, why don't you have to? It's now been trucked more than just it's not a short drive, over 1,000 miles. Things shake apart, things change. And we found things that had, shook around and they had to be fixed. But even so, once you put it into play, it all has to coordinate together. And you don't do that, just flip the switch. Oh, well, we're doing do this and instantly go to 10.5 million cubic feet a day. And as you and I have discussed before, Andrew, people want, well, what's it going to do? And it's like, it will not run it. You do not run any plant at full tilt boogie. You do not run it at max. You run back because, certain parts of the plant have an internal operation, very small parts. They run at 3,500 or 6,000 PSI. Now, everything that's built in there has 3 times that capability to handle more pressure, but there's a lot to this. And I'm proud of what our team's built and our Siget did for help us on the engineering. But it is impressive, and how everything has to be made so it has so much redundancies to it. It's not just 1 is 2, it's 3 redundancy. Kind of like when we drill wells, Andrew. There's triple redundancy to protect the aquifers. This is no different.
Yes. Now, also, you had an opening ceremony for the plant just the other day. Can we ask about some of the guests that were there?
Well, we had specific names. I won't say all of them, but we had people from Geneva and Zurich and Milan, Montreal, Toronto, New York representatives, people representing exchanges were there. We had an assortment of different shareholders who have been in for the long haul, and to just try to get a representative sample of people who have been there at the long, and it's like, well, what else? And then they've been there for the long run. Yeah. And they're like, wow, this is neat. Even though the longest of them have only been there, since 2018, but it's still interesting and it's nice for them to see it come together really fast, even though I started doing geology in 99. And it is neat to have that grouping of people, very high net worth individuals, take time out of their schedules, come all the way to middle of nowhere. And that is one thing that I think was universal on the drive out from Winslow to it. People, without an exception, said, how the hell did you find this? And it's kind of fun to, just be able to show them exactly what's required. Then they had a better sense of how hard this was. And it's not a flash in the pan. Now it seems real quick. And really what we've done in 2 years is fantastically fast. Really is.
to go from finding a resource, finding helium, finding the grades, drilling them out of holes, to having a plant that's like I said, on the verge. And I think you said you're in the 90-day optimization zone or program right now towards commercial production. That is astoundingly fast. And I know for some people, because they're impatient, they think, oh, I've been in this for a little while. You've been in this and done very well for a little while. And we're on that cusp now of what people always come to. They say, all right, like, show me the money, show me the revenue, show me what's this going to make, give me the numbers. And I'm sure even analysts, and we've had this conversation in past videos where we can talk about, it's not the same with flow rates as it is oil and gas. A new kind of a framework has to be applied because it's not the same gas as other gases, never mind the other noble gases in there. So where, like, this 90 days is going to lead towards revenue. But in that kind of space, what is it about each unit of the plant, how it's calibrated differently? Now, would it be that, say, the McCauley field one might be calibrated differently than a different one?
Well, basically, the plant is designed, the base design will be, we can use this wherever we go. And so it has all of those other redundancies. It can be expanded. There are literal, even within this plant, it was easy to point out to people where there's flames where there's a blank flange and there's a series of valves. So it's actually set to go around it, and we could expand capacity, or this same plant design could be, all you have to do is add in another small unit right next to it, and you can deal with argon, xenon, neon, and krypton. So it's like, but you have to understand how all this works, verify all the lines of code. I mean, we verified a lot at Generon, but that wasn't using natural gas, or what was coming out of the ground. That's an important aspect to this, is to make it go. And people want to know, well, I want this to happen right now. I want to see exactly, and the analyst, as I've tried to explain, it goes back to the formations. We are going to be producing from formations that there has never been any even oil and gas production from, other than just within that same 2 million year time span. That's totally different. Another thing, people think that traditionally, that all of the helium that's being, and hydrogen that's being formed that we're going to deal with, comes out of the mantle or the crust. And it comes from the breakdown of uranium-238 and thorium-252 and lithium and cesium-55. We have actually found here where we do have that, but it's actually being formed in other formations above the Earth's crust, and we've proven that up now. And so it's, how do you apply that? Exactly, where else in the world and in the U.S. and where else can you apply that knowledge to? And so there's a lot to this that we will not discuss.
Sure.
Specific, because it's, I'm going to let everybody else can go figure it out. There's brilliant minds out there. Let them go figure it. And there's some interesting people out there that have tried to, they're working on that. They're finally starting to say, oh yeah, this really is a total outside the box thinking on this. And that's the other reason you can't just arbitrarily put production numbers on it.
Yes. So in 90 days though, okay, here's a couple of questions. Is there a need to raise capital to bridge that 90 days? Is there any need to, at that time, if we start seeing revenue, are you considering expansion? Are there more plants that you're considering? I mean, I'm kind of jumping the gun a little bit here because, let's get this one going before. But I mean, is that something?
That's a fair question.
It's 2023.
It's a fair question. as far as financings or that type of stuff, I'm just going to use that would require me to go to the board, and we have not discussed anything with the board. So that's my official stance on that. There has not been any discussion with the board for that need. Currently, we have right at $5 million in the coffers at the moment. So it's a good push. Depending on what other, because obviously we had announced recently we had picked up more acreage. We're constantly looking and evaluating things. Not to say that if there's some unique opportunities that were hypothetically dropped into my lap, that I would probably pull the trigger on doing something really, really fast.
Okay.
There are always opportunities out there. A number, I don't know, we probably have. In the last week, I think I've had 11. Okay. I've turned them all down.
Yeah.
It just, it's amazing because we are the leader in the helium space. Again, people ask, well, who are your peers? And I say, at the moment, there is no one.
Yeah.
Because what we are trying to do, and we're becoming now, is going into production, is a fully vertically integrated company. And so nobody else has done this.
No,
not for helium, no one. So it's like the start of a major oil company in a way. There's other oil companies, they all have it as a side, and most of them, it's not even footnoted in their annual reports.
Yeah.
That's how small it is.
Yeah.
And getting to your one of the other aspects about, I know you've had questions because you've sent me emails before and we've visited. People say, well, when they saw the pictures, well, where's all the tanks to store it? We're not storing it. And This is one thing, I've said this before, so I want to just reiterate.
Yeah, thank you.
The trailers get dropped off there. They get filled, and as they happen, initially, that does not mean there's going to be a trailer driving out there 3 times a day or every day. That's not the way it's going to work. It's not. But there will be sufficient trailers always available, because once you put it in a tank, then you're dealing with storage issues.
Yes.
And then you have to recompress it to get into a trailer at whatever pressure they want. There are literally people who are willing to put trailers and trucks on the road from Nova Scotia. There's companies there from upstate New York and from lower New York, all over the U.S. There's companies that are willing to put trailers on the road, even though they know they're going to lose 18% of it because of the force majeure that the 3 majors handling company put into play. They're just trying to keep their businesses open.
Sure. Yeah, we've even seen articles here, like from Windsor, Ontario, where hospitals for their MRI machines, they're like, we're out of helium. We need to order it. And they're like, well, what do you mean? What's the next step? So, I mean, we're actually seeing that in articles.
And that's one, like Andrew, a lot of people want to say, well, how long will this market last? Hey, I read tea leaves, I don't know. There is no way to forecast it for sure. However, that being said, it's hard to get this infrastructure built for it. It's not easily handled. You look at what's the ongoing problems with Ukraine. None of that's coming back online anytime soon. Mm-hmm. The Amur Russia project that was supposed to be supplying 25% of the world's supply of helium, that's not coming online anytime soon. After their, depending on how you wish to look at it, their mishaps or intentional or just happen to have explosions and fires, and you can't just recreate this stuff instantly. You just can't. And that's on a very large scale, very high throughput of gas. You go look at what happened with the BLM at Cliff Hills in Texas, the repository, the helium repository. Oh, we seem to be missing, the numbers they're bantering around is, well, maybe we don't really have 28 to 31% of what we said we had left.
Yeah.
Well, again, what do they use helium for leak detection? Because it's the second smallest molecule. So you take it from all over the central United States, and as long as you have a lot of production put in, you don't see the loss, but it's been leaking. And you look at, and people want to say, well, we've got all this natural gas. And you look at Ohio and the Marcellus Shale back east, or the Permian Basin and all this other. The problem with it is in shale gas, you don't get enough helium to bother to strip, even on large amounts of it, because you're talking very fraction, you're talking 0.001 or 0.0001 or 0.00, it's less than. So it's as an inert, it just falls out. Or it just gets included into 1,025 BTU gas stream, whatever the state and interstate tariffs are that restrict, and they actually dictate what the gas BTU value will be. So there's a lot of that. With the traditional oil and gas fields out of lime and sandstone dropping off, they're depleted, and so now you're down to the shales, and there's a lot of natural gas in shale, lots, but it's not the same. So you have to go after this and treat it differently.